Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming to today's October 5th regular city council meeting. If you could please rise and join me in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. City Clerk, can you call roll, please? Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Davis.
Yes.
Councilmember Lopez.
Here.
Councilmember Larios.
Here.
Councilmember Merlo.
Here. Thank you. Do we have any changes to the agenda?
Do not have any changes at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I do.
May I have a second?
Second.
A motion from Councilmember Lopez and a second from Mayor Pro Tem Davis.
Mayor Ibarra,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Davis,
Yes.
Councilmember Lopez,
Yes.
Councilmember Larios,
Yes.
Councilmember Merlo.
Yes.
Thank you. Now we'll take public comments from the members of the audience. If you'd like to provide a comment through Zoom, please click the raise hand button. Are there any public comments at this time?
We have one speaker, James Santero.
If you could please state your name and business affiliation, if any, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Thank you.
So I wanted to say good morning to all the members of the Vernon City Council. I wanted to take this opportunity to formally introduce myself. My name is James Centeno, and I'm the new principal at Vernon City Elementary School. I'm very proud and excited to be serving the community. I am very thankful and grateful for all the support that the new Chief of Police, Chief Sosa, has provided our school during our reopening. I'm very thankful and grateful. We're going to continue that support this year. I also would like to thank some of our partnerships, such as FlowServe, for their generosity and support. And I know there's many other partnerships, and I will meet them as we move forward in the year, but I just want to introduce myself. And I look forward to working with the city, continue to provide our students amazing learning experiences and that support. Thank you very much.
Nice.
Thank you very much. Are there any public comment on Zoom? We'll now go on to presentation item. Agenda item number 1 is recognition of outgoing city commission and committee members. Deputy City Clerk Harrington will present the item.
Thank you, Mayor. We would like to recognize the Business and Industry Commissioner, William Davis.
I'm sorry, Deputy, can you turn on your mic and speak into the mic,
Okay.
please? Thank you.
We would like to recognize outgoing Business and Industry Commissioner William Bill Davis, outgoing Vernon Community Fund Grant Committee members Michael Gavina and Judith Merlo, and outgoing Vernon Housing Commissioners Frank Gavina and Melissa Ibarro for their dedicated service to the city of Vernon.
I'm gonna let the city council get it. No, they're gonna do that one. Thank you.
One, two, three. Thank you.
One minute.
Good. Before we end, I want to just say thank you to everybody who has given their service to the city and provided a lot of support with all our community, our committees. Thank you. Thank you. Now we'll go on to agenda item number 2, city administrator report. The city administrator Fandino is out today, so Lily Hernandez will be presenting. Thank you, Mayor.
Good morning, Mayor and members of the City Council. This morning, I will be presenting the City Administrator report on behalf of City Administrator Fandino. We have several topics: new business welcome, career day, new city website, Vernon's National Cleanup Day, police grant funded activity, our City Hall lighting project, earthquake inspections and gas pipeline patrols, and an announcement regarding the LAEDC Most Business Friendly. During the months of July, August, and September, the city issued 31 certificates of occupancy to new businesses locating in Vernon. As you can see by some of the business logos included on this slide, Vernon continues to attract a variety of industries, including food and beverage, apparel, jewelry and accessories, and health and beauty products, as well as furniture manufacturing. Here we have Public Works staff presenting a couple of new businesses with their certificates of occupancy. On the right, we have Cosmetex, and on the left is Privy. On September 22nd, the City of Vernon hosted its first ever career day here in the council chamber and via Zoom. This seminar was intended to educate students about the role of local government and increase awareness about the opportunities that careers in the public sector offer, provide an overview of various fields of service within the city, and touch upon educational paths. The seminar was open to all students, but was geared towards students in high school and or early college years. This event was announced via social media, and invitations were sent to local high schools as well as Vernon's residents. We have a few pictures on the following slides. There were approximately 20 students in attendance here at City Hall, as well as students who joined us on Zoom for this seminar. City staff from all departments shared information about their respective department functions, personal experiences, their own educational journeys, and answered specific questions of the students. Overall, the event was a great success. In the future, the city hopes to reach a broader student audience and expand upon the career day experience. The video recording of the educational session will also be made available online on the city's website. And now we have an overview of the city's new website. The city's new website was launched on September 27th. In addition to the new modern look, there are a host of new functions and functionality. Because of the ease of maintenance and its user-friendly interface, we hope to enhance the experience for website visitors and paint a clear picture of what modern Vernon is all about. Please note that staff continues its review process and will make updates as necessary to ensure that the content is current. I'd like to thank our IT team and city clerk for working tirelessly on the launch of our new website. We'll take a look at a few highlights today and invite you to explore the city's new website at your leisure. Let me show that. So we wanted to offer a glimpse of our new city website. It is a new look for Vernon, and the top is focused on the most visited pages from our former site. It's meant to be very user-friendly and easy for the public to visit our site and reach resources available at the city. So we have the departments, a how do I section, how do I report a non-emergency, how do I report graffiti, very easy to reach features. So if our residents or businesses or other citizens want to inform the city of a request need, then they are able to do so on the city's website. If you can scroll down. So we have our key buttons there, icons for the charter and municipal code, and also for the agenda and minutes. So if anyone is interested in accessing the city's agenda, for any city council meetings or other commission meetings. It's right there at the click of a button. They're easily able to access that information. Our new website also features a notify me feature right up at the top right-hand corner. So anyone interested in receiving notifications about agendas from the city is welcome to subscribe there. They can enter their email notification and select what notifications they'd like to receive from the city. We also have a new business highlight section on our website. It's towards the bottom of the screen. So this particular section will be utilized to highlight businesses here in Vernon as part of the BAR program, or the Business Appreciation and Recognition for the city of Vernon. We will be featuring Vernon businesses there. So we have the Curling Center, which you all recently provided a proclamation to on their grand opening and some information there. We also have a feature piece on Tapatio Foods, also a recent recipient of a proclamation for their 50th anniversary. So this page, this particular section will continue to add business highlights for businesses here in Vernon. And then finally, we have a community resources page where we will continue to provide resources and information for members of our community. If you could click on upcoming events, for example, there will be a household hazardous waste and electronic waste collection event hosted by the city of Huntington Park that is available to all LA County residents, including those that live here in Vernon. There's also an education fair that will be coming up hosted by the city of Maywood. So we work together with the surrounding cities to be informed of upcoming events that may also be beneficial for our own residents and community members. And we will utilize this community resources page to communicate that to members of our community. Okay. So we invite you to visit our page and become familiar with it at your convenience. But back to the presentation. We will move on to National Cleanup Day. This was another first for Vernon. Vernon hosted its first National Cleanup Day on September 18th. In addition to cleanup efforts carried out by Public Works staff throughout the city leading up to this event, Vernon's residents, businesses, local community members, and city staff were invited to volunteer and take part in the cleanup of a designated stretch of the city on Pacific from Santa Fe to Fruitland. Thank you to Vernon Business Urban Trends for lending their lot as our cleanup day staging area. Again, this was the first event of its kind, and because of its success, the city is planning to host cleanup events such as these on a biannual basis moving forward. The next cleanup event will be scheduled for spring of 2022. Now we have some photos of the event here on the next couple of slides. Along with cleaning supplies and protective and safety equipment, volunteers received special t-shirts and goodie bags for their participation. Here is a photo of the whole cleanup crew. It was a great turnout with approximately 50 volunteers comprised of members of the city council, city employees, volunteers, and community members that assisted with the cleanup. I'd also like to talk about police grant funded activity. Alcohol impaired driving remains one of the biggest threats to public safety and well-being on our roadways. The Office of Traffic Safety, OTS, provides grant funding that law enforcement agencies can use to address, deter, and prevent alcohol impaired driving. Grant programs include enforcement operations dedicated to stopping and arresting suspected impaired drivers, purchase of equipment such as breath testing service devices, monitoring and treatment of high-risk DUI offenders, and youth education programs for high school and college students on the dangers and consequences of impaired driving. On August 20th and 27th, the Vernon Police Department held Office of Traffic Safety funded checkpoints in the 3700 block of Soto Street. The 2 checkpoints resulted in 37 citations for suspended or unlicensed drivers, including 2 DUI arrests. VPD's strategic use of OTS grant funds aids their efforts to keep the city streets safe. In this presentation, we'll also cover the City Hall lighting project recently completed at City Hall. Widespread use of LED lighting has a large potential impact on energy savings in the United States. The energy efficiency and considerable lifespan of LED technology has the potential for changing the way organizations brighten their facilities by reducing the cost of electricity and overall energy use. Following an energy savings audit, City Hall recently underwent a series of interior and exterior lighting upgrades, transitioning to the use of efficient LED lighting. VPU's energy audit consultant, Richard Heath and Associates, led the lighting retrofit project. Their services included replacing interior and exterior lighting with new LED fixtures and sensors, and proper recycling and disposal of old equipment and materials. The project total was $279,179, and the estimated annual cost savings is $96,359, which yields a payback period of 2.9 years and an energy savings of 582,440 kilowatts. The energy savings is an equivalent to about 90 less cars on the road for a year or 75 homes electricity use for 1 year. So it is significant. City Hall's transition to LED lighting began with an energy audit of City Hall facilities coordinated by VPU. This service is also available to all VPU customers for free as part of public benefit funds. So for more information on this program or any businesses interested in having an audit, they're welcome to contact VPU customer service. And we do have some before and after photos to share. On the left-hand corner, you see the city installed indoor motion detection switches to minimize energy waste. And the next slide just shows before and after, so you can see the LED lighting is much brighter than traditional lighting. We would also like to mention the earthquake inspection and gas pipeline patrols conducted by VPU's gas division. The Natural Gas Division regularly conducts leak surveys and inspections of the transmission system, and also conducts a pipeline patrol of the transmission and distribution systems. As many of you may have felt, on September 17th, a magnitude 4.3 earthquake centered near Carson struck the area around 7:58 p.m. That earthquake was felt across the Southland, including here in Vernon. Focused on the protection of the public and property, the Natural Gas Division takes extra measures when an earthquake occurs. Following the Carson quake, Gas Division staff promptly performed inspections of the city's gas systems. In this instance, no leaks or evidence of any damage to the pipeline were found. Thank you to the Natural Gas Division for your due diligence in protecting the community. This is one of the examples of why the Natural Gas Division was honored with the prestigious APGA Safety Management Excellence Award for 2020. And last but not least, City Administration is excited to announce that Vernon has been selected as one of the finalists for this year's Most Business Friendly City Award. The Los Angeles Economic Development Corporation, LAEDC, recognizes local cities with this prestigious award based on the city's population size. The awards this year recognize the cities that prioritized creating the most supportive environment for business recovery, reinvention, and growth during the pandemic. The winning cities of the most business-friendly city competition will be announced live at the Eddie Awards on November 10th, 2021 at SoFi Stadium. Regardless of the outcome, it is an honor and well-deserved recognition for Vernon to be named a finalist. This year's list of finalists include Culver City, El Segundo, Gardena, Lancaster, Palmdale, Rosemead, Santa Clarita, Torrance, West Hollywood, and Vernon. The Eddie Awards is the most prestigious awards program to recognize leadership and economic development in business, education, and government throughout Los Angeles County, and also supports the LAEDC's mission to advance opportunity and prosperity for all. That is all for the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we'll go on to the consent calendar. All matters listed on the consent calendar are to be approved with one motion. Items may be removed from the consent calendar by any members of the council. Those items removed will be considered immediately after the consent calendar. Does council wish to pull any items from the consent calendar?
I wish to pull agenda item number 4 for individual consideration.
And I wish to pull agenda item number 5 for individual consideration. Are there any other items you guys like to wish to pull? Are there any public comments for the consent calendar?
There are not.
Are there any public comments on the Zoom? Okay, we do have one for the consent calendar.
Yeah.
We are pulling item number 4 and 5, so you'll have an opportunity to comment on those 2 items at the end. Okay, see that there is no public comment. May I have a motion for consent calendar item number 3 to 9 with the exception of number 4 and 5?
I'll move.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Larios and a second from Mayor Pro Tem Davis. City Clerk?
On a motion of Councilmember Larios and Mayor Pro Tem Davis, we will be approving the consent calendar items 3 through 9 with the exception of items 4 and 5. Mayor Ibarra,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Davis.
Yes.
Councilmember Lopez.
Yes.
Councilmember Larios,
Yes.
Councilmember Merle.
Yes.
That
Thank
motion
you.
carries.
We'll now move on to agenda item, consent calendar item number 4. Second reading of the ordinance number 1276, amendment to the Vernon Municipal Code, Chapter 22 to regulate sidewalk vendor. Director Wall will present the item.
Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council, the item before you establishes a permitting system and regulations for sidewalk street vending. This is being done proactively. Currently, we've identified 1, possibly 2 sidewalk vendors here, and they're not causing any problems for us. But in looking at what has happened in surrounding communities, most notably the city of Los Angeles with the Avenue 26 night market that got out of hand, and that city, instead of being proactive, was very reactive and just shut everything down to the extent of actually fencing off streets. We wanted to just kind of get ahead of this and establish basic regulations so that we could be protective not only of the vendors to allow them to continue vending here, but also to be protective of the public and users of the right of way. If there are any questions or if you'd like to go over the ordinance, I'd be happy to entertain those.
Okay, I have a question. So I like to state, I believe that street vending is a hard and honest work. It's mostly conducted by people of color in our low income communities. I would like to see the city support them and create a relationship with them where we both benefit, both protect the city and the vendors. With that, I proposed some amendments to the ordinance with the approval of council, of course. So one of the things that I noticed was that for the first time violation, there was a fine of $250. And I think our first time violation, it should be a warning and not necessarily a fine, especially given the transition period. So have that changed. I would also propose there not to be a restriction on the hours, to have the city be more flexible with the hours. Currently in the ordinance, it states that it's only allowing them from 7 to 5 o'clock, from 9 to 5 o'clock in residential areas. I think we can extend it to 7. There's also a restriction on 1 hour before school or after school where they can't sell. I think that should be taken off as well. These hours are important hours for the vendors, and it's probably when they make their most sales and revenue. And I think they should be allowed. Also, I have a few questions. During the transition period, what kind of notices are they going to be receiving before the policies come into effect?
So we have a code enforcement officer, and his first approach to anybody is education. So we will educate people as to what permits are required, and we will have people guide vendors throughout the process to make sure that they get permitted. And so that will be our approach. And that just won't be during the transition period. That will be whenever we find a new vendor in the city, we will educate them to get them permitted.
Okay, can you state the difference between a code enforcer and like them being approached by like PD?
So our code enforcement officer is post-trained, but they don't carry a weapon. He doesn't carry a badge. He has a uniform, but it's not a police uniform. It's a polo shirt that just has Public Works emblem on it so that people can recognize that he does work for the city. But it's a much lower, an encounter with him is much different than an encounter with a police officer.
Okay, and then also, I want to create a clear and accessible pathway for them to obtain a permit. Will the application materials be provided in Spanish and in other languages?
Yes, so it will be provided in Spanish. If there is a need to provide in other languages, we'll have to cross that bridge when we get to it. The code enforcement officer, as well as the Public Works counter staff who will be assisting with the permits, are fully bilingual in Spanish and in English. And so we can provide that transition for people.
Okay, and then can you also clarify, I read that one of the requirements was an identification to be required. I currently feel that not all vendors can provide like government issues ID, again, because of their individual documentation status. What other alternatives can they provide?
So the Mexican consulate does provide identification that we could use in play. It does not necessarily need to be US identification. So we'll take identification. We just need to know who the person is as part of the background check.
Okay, perfect. And then referring to the background checks, I did notice that they needed to be fingerprinted, and I felt like that would be kind of a challenge for the vendors to meet that requirement. And I know there's other ways that you can background check that you don't need to necessarily fingerprint the individuals. Is there anything that we can look at besides fingerprinting?
So we can, it's a bit of a challenge though. So with fingerprinting, we're able to do a background check on somebody who does not have a government issued ID because their fingerprints are their fingerprints. If we did away with the fingerprint requirement, then the ID situation comes into play. And so it may become more difficult to provide clearance for somebody who doesn't have an issued ID.
So we do, if you don't have any kind of ID, we will require fingerprints versus.
That's certainly something that the council could direct us to do.
Okay. And then also one last amendment that I think we should do. The requirement, there's also a requirement of proof of liability insurance. I'm kind of concerned because that cost might not be feasible for a lot of the vendors, considering their resources that they have. And I do feel like that's something that we can remove as well. And in looking at the California, the Los Angeles requirement, they don't have that requirement. So I don't know, is that possible that we can possibly take that requirement away? Because I just don't want to make it impossible for the current vendors that we have to not be able to continue their businesses with us because they can't afford it. So yeah, those are my questions.
Does council want to take each item one by one and discuss?
I did want to say in regards to the 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. that she was proposing, I think 9 a.m. is kind of late to start. I know that they start very early in the morning, considering that we have a lot of employees that come into the city so early. I think that that should also be moved to much earlier than 9 a.m.
I agree.
But my question on that part, is it that only in residential or is it citywide?
No, that is only in residential areas. Citywide, vendors would be allowed to have the same hours as whatever the local businesses are. So if there's a 24/7 business, a vendor would be allowed to have 24/7 operations.
Okay.
Since it has to do with since we're gonna take them one by one, since it has to do with residential, are you guys okay with expanding the hours earlier till 7 o'clock, or how would you?
Maybe
want
we
it?
could do 7 to 7 in
I
residential
think that would be
areas.
good.
Okay, so on that one, we'll take it one by one. So if we can do the change for 7 to 7, you need a motion on that one? On her, I would like to hit every one of her bullet points.
Mhm.
Thank you.
I'd like to
And-
hit every one of her bullet points and make sure we discuss each individual one by one.
And if I might make a suggestion, if it's, I don't want council to feel like you have to make a decision on all these right now. If it would be easier to identify the areas that would be like to look at for a further amendment, we could agendize it for a further discussion and then bring back a revised or a revised ordinance at that time.
Mhm.
That way you're not, stuck in making these decisions right now.
Okay.
So if we could go with the restriction of hours and extend it from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. in the residential area. That would be the recommendation on that item. Is that all agreed upon on council? So that's one change. I'd like to touch the violation fine, that suggestion of the first one a warning and then the second one a fine. I think that would be better off on doing that. So if we can change that, is everybody
agree.
okay with that, or does anybody have any comments?
I agree.
Okay, now the question on the vending in front of school and after school. My question on that, I do have a question on that. On the street vendors, are you including like the paleteros and everybody, like a fruit stand as well? Is
Yeah,
that
so
what
I think
you're-
it covers both moving vendors and standstill vendors,
Okay,
right?
how does council want to address that?
I think they should be able to sell within that hour and stuff. That's where they make their most money.
Okay. So the recommendation from council is to remove that portion of it?
Yes.
Okay. So what was the next one?
The proof of liability insurance requirement.
Proof of liability, can you explain that a little bit more?
Yes, so anybody that encroaches in our right of way currently, so say a business wants to paint the outside of the business and they're right up against the sidewalk, so their painters will be on the sidewalk. We require them to have liability insurance. Anybody who's doing any sort of work in the public right of way, we require to have liability insurance, and that's the reason for that is because if somebody is injured due to the vendor or the worker that's doing the work in the public right of way, and we've permitted that, we become liable. And so the insurance is to protect the city.
That's where I do question it on the liability. I understand your thing, but we're liable at the end of the day is who takes liability on that part. So liability insurance, I guess that's a question for legal, is what to protect the city.
Yes, and that's, I think, the reason several jurisdictions do require some type of insurance. We did leave it somewhat open-ended in the ordinance itself. The language just says that the vendors would be required to provide proof of liability insurance in a form acceptable to the finance department. So some jurisdictions actually set an amount. Some require even insurance in up to the amount of $1 million. Some require $500,000. If council wishes, we can come back with specific numbers. I believe in the $500,000 range, a policy is somewhere between $300 to about $2,000 or $2,500 a year. But I do think in viewing, the city's liability as a big factor to protect ourselves from potential claims for damages, and also to make sure that the public is protected as well in case they have a claim. Requiring some type of liability insurance is the safest route. But if council wishes to have us come back with some more specific numbers from risk management about what that policy would cost and what that looks like, we can bring that back.
I would like to see that.
That's good.
Let's,
And then as part of our educational part of this process, are we gonna also include maybe options as to how to obtain these types of insurances?
Yes, yeah, we'll guide, bottom line is we want vendors to be permitted. And so we will guide them throughout that process. We don't want to have to turn somebody away.
Okay, but I would definitely like to see the numbers too.
so if we could pull that and discuss that further at a next, on our next meeting to see the risk and the analysis and give us data on that. You have one more?
Yeah, the fingerprint. Do we actually need a fingerprint or can we just do like a regular background check?
I'd like to hear more on that.
Yeah, and as Dan mentioned, the fingerprinting is not required, but it is a more accurate result than just a name-based or an identification-based. And same issue, if we are not requiring a US government issued ID, then a criminal background check just based on an ID wouldn't be feasible. But we can look at maybe a hybrid where a fingerprint would be required unless a government issued ID was not available. But really, again, this goes to the public safety aspect, especially if we have vendors operating within the schools. We want to make sure that they're not individuals who shouldn't be close to schools in close proximity. So a criminal background check that does not include a fingerprinting should trigger things like showing if someone is on a sex offender registry list or is a violent felon, that sort of thing. But fingerprinting is kind of the gold standard in terms of making sure it's actually the person submitting the application, because obviously you could submit an ID that wasn't yours. But we can look at other approaches as well.
I have by experience done like regular background checks and it doesn't always pull up everything that's on a fingerprinted one. It doesn't always pull up everything.
I'd like to
that is
hear
true.
more options and availability and hear feedback from PD as well. Because if PD or our code enforcer goes and calls on it, how do we know we're dealing with that individual who has the license?
And then does the city provide the ability to come here and do fingerprinting here?
My understanding is that we do not currently have that, so they would have to go to a third party. I'm not sure how housing does our background checks, but for fingerprinting, I think the closest might be Huntington Park.
Yes, yeah, and there are vendors, there's both government vendors for lives, it's basically live scan. So if you're familiar with live scan from youth sports, so there's live scan processes and there's storefront vendors. There's some agencies also provide live scanning, so it's fairly easy to access.
Maybe add that to our educational part of,
Yeah,
give
we can do
them,
it.
direct our vendors on where they can get that done locally.
Okay, and just for Brown Act purposes, since this was only agendized as a second reading of the existing, my recommendation would be to, as we're doing, identify all these areas for further discussion, and that way it'll be agendized in that way in case there's any public comment at the next meeting.
Okay, thank you so much.
For sure.
Okay, at this time, we'll pull this item and send it back to staff for further review and adjustments. Are there any public comment on this item? Are there any public comment on Zoom? Okay, now we'll move on to item number 5. Results of the City of Vernon, September 14, 2021 special municipal elections. Deputy Clerk Deborah Harrington will read this.
I'll actually present this item, Mayor. Good morning, Mayor and council members. The item before you is a resolution reciting the facts of the special municipal election held on September 14th, 2021. As required by law, we are presenting the results of the election. As indicated in Exhibit A to the resolution, neither recall of Bill Davis or Melissa Ibarra were successful. And it would be appropriate for the council to adopt resolution number 2021-28.
Thank you. Are there any questions from council on this item? Are there any public comments on item number 5?
I have no speakers.
I do have one right behind you.
Good morning, council. My name is Marisa Olguin with the Vernon Chamber of Commerce. And first and foremost, I'd just like to begin by congratulating Mayor Melissa Ibarra and Mayor Pro Tem Bill Davis for staving off a senseless recall that culminated in voters sending a third and final message that they expect clean government and they wanted to support the reforms that have been so helpful in turning around the city. So I just want to congratulate you both on that. It was a hard work effort that you both did. And just amidst a global pandemic, when the city has shined in its support for residents and employers, we had two bad leaders who invited corruption into the city for self-interested motivations. Their unethical conduct was raised all sorts of flags during the pandemic last year. As you know, and I just wanted to congratulate Bill Davis, Bill, Melissa, and Leticia for just standing firm and standing strong and voicing those concerns early on. It really sparked a movement. It sparked conversations with business leaders, with IBEW, labor, who all coalesced together and felt that we needed to take some action. And so needless to say, it took a village. The threat was real, and we demonstrated 3 times this year that democracy is active and working in Vernon. We may be small, but we're a community that is engaged. We really demonstrated that our community of residents, business leaders, council, and even labor, that we're all engaged. And it started organically because of each of you. It started because of Leticia, Melissa, Bill, organically taking a stand, voicing concerns, and calling out unethical behavior. It also started with Crystal and Judith, our new council members, who stepped forward and said, yes, I will serve. And so you have all kind of helped turn the city, I don't want to say turn, you have helped the city maintain its transparent and clean government. And with your approach to the Chamber of Commerce and IBEW, we really demonstrated the community of Vernon and how difficult and how arduous it was to educate voters. It was a long process to educate them on very complicated matters that were affecting our leadership here in town. And so we really proved that that democracy is working and that the voters really spoke and took that stand and collectively sided with each of our leaders to say, yes, we want clean government and we expect clean government. And so today is a really fantastic day. I know it's been time for us to certify the election, but I just wanted to thank each of you for standing firm for what is right and doing the right thing. This is the 10-year anniversary of the city staving off our disincorporation, and we want to celebrate that in some way. And so I just wanted to congratulate you and also thank the city staff for the entire year and how difficult it's been for them to lead during this time. I just, watching each of you, I just want to thank all the department heads. We've rolled out vaccine efforts. We've had, there's so many things to do. I would just also want to thank City Clerk Lisa Pope for your hard work in managing 3 elections in 1 year. I don't think any other city clerk has done that in the state of California, but that's what you get when you come into Vernon. You have all sorts of unique experiences. And so I just wanted to thank each of you and just reiterate that our city is strong. And now we can continue our successes, learning about the presentation that we heard today about the award and the candidate to become the most business-friendly city, and also our work that we did during the pandemic. And then our goal, Carlos Fandino, our city manager's goal of achieving the lowest rates in the state of California by year 2030. I think we're on our way. And I can solidly say that it's been our community and our residential community are very engaged. And it's just been a pleasure to work with each of you and to work side by side to support the reforms that are really the cornerstone foundation of our city. So congratulations to all of you and thank you so much.
Thank you. Does council have any questions for staff at this time on this item? Are there any further public comments on Zoom? May I have a motion for item number 5? May I have a second?
Second.
From a motion from Councilmember Lopez and a second from Mayor Pro Tem Davis, City Clerk.
We have a motion again by Councilmember Lopez seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Davis, to adopt resolution number 2021-28, reciting the facts of the special municipal election held on September 14th, 2021, declaring the results and such matters, other matters as provided by law. Mayor Ibarra?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Davis?
Yes.
Councilmember Lopez?
Yes.
Councilmember Larios?
Yes.
Councilmember Murrow?
Yes.
That motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. We'll now go on to new business. Agenda item number 10 is purchase contract for city contracts number CS 1388. Phase 1 environmental report and soils report at 4528 and 4530 Bandini Boulevard. Public Works Director Wall will present the report.
Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council, the city owns two properties on Bandini adjacent to the 710 freeway. The Public Works Department is exploring potential uses for these properties, and a Phase 1 environmental study and soils report are important first steps in this exploration. Tetra Tech has provided the lowest complete quote for this work at $28,450. And normally a purchase contract of this size does not need City Council approval. However, in the last 12 months, the Health and Environmental Control Department has entered into a contract with Tetra Tech for $72,694.96. And the combination of these two contracts would put us just over the $100,000 threshold, requiring City Council approval. Also, sometimes a Phase 1 environmental study discovers areas requiring further investigation. And to cover this possible contingency, this item asks the City Council to authorize an additional $21,000 in the event that additional sampling and testing are needed, and grant authority to the city administrator to issue change orders for that amount if necessary. This concludes my report.
Are there any questions from council at this time? I do have a quick question. Is this considered a change order or in addition, a separate contract?
It would be a change order under the, no, this is a separate contract. So I understand what you're saying. Yes, this would be a separate contract, but our purchasing code says that if you're dealing with the same vendor and you exceed 100,000, you have to bring whatever exceeds the 100,000 to the council.
Okay, so with the 28,000 plus the additional you want as a
Well,
backup.
just with the 28,000, we would exceed the 100 for the
Okay.
calendar year. And so even if the contingency were not approved, we'd still have to get approval for the base 28,000.
Since we're in calendar year, we've already have a contract that we're spending about 100,000 in this last quarter. Is that what you're explaining?
No, it's a rolling 12 months. And so, we're in October. We're in
first
October.
quarter.
I forgot what month we were in. We're in October. So we go back to October of the previous year.
Okay.
And if we exceed the 100,000 with the new contract, we'd have to bring the new contract to
Okay,
the city council.
it's not fiscal year, it's
It's,
calendar
it's,
year.
yeah, it's even worse than that. It's a rolling 12-month average,
Okay.
or not average, but rolling 12 months. So.
Okay. Thank you for the
Yeah.
clarification. Are there any further questions from council at this time? Are there any public comments for this item? Are there any public comments on Zoom? Now, may I have a motion for this item?
I move.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
Offer a first motion from Mayor Pro Tem Davis and a second from Councilmember Larios. City Clerk?
Mayor Ibarra,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Davis,
Yes.
Councilmember Lopez.
Yes.
Councilmember Larios?
Yes.
Councilmember Merlo?
Yes.
Thank you. Now we'll go on to oral reports. Lily Hernandez?
Thank you, Mayor. We'll begin with notable police activity. On October 3rd, this past Sunday night, VPD officers responded to a shooting in the 5800 block of Boyle Avenue at the border of Huntington Park. At this time, it appears to be connected to a road rage incident. The victim of the shooting is expected to survive, and there are suspects in custody. Vernon Police Department is also in communication with local police agencies regarding possible links to other criminal activity in neighboring jurisdictions. Last week, the city of Vernon hosted a blood drive in conjunction with Children's Hospital of Los Angeles. Every month, CHLA must collect 2,000 units of blood products to meet the needs of its patients. Each donation helps 2 children. We had a great turnout with over 36 participants donating here at the city. The Pink Patch Project has launched for October 2021. This month marks Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And as you all know, Vernon PD is supporting the Pink Patch Project campaign with their exclusive Pink Patch sales. This year's patch features Vernon's iconic cog and a lightning bolt, serving as a representation of the power of those individuals that fight cancer. Patches are sold by the Vernon Police Officers Benefit Association throughout the month of October, and all proceeds are donated to breast cancer awareness and education. Please keep an eye out on VPD's social media for campaign updates. The Vernon Police Department thanks everyone in advance for their support. And we have our Halloween spectacular coming up. This year's Halloween spectacular is being planned for Thursday, October 28th. Please save the date for this popular community outreach event. The city continues to monitor COVID-19 and will be sure to coordinate the event in accordance with recommended safety guidelines, making appropriate modifications to its traditional activities where necessary. City administration staff will share more details on this event in the coming weeks. And then we also have an update from the utility regarding recent outages due to the storm yesterday. So there were multiple electric outages experienced yesterday due to the inclement weather, including rain, lightning, and wind. Crews responded and worked throughout the night and into the early morning hours today to restore power to all customers and replace damaged equipment from lightning strikes. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll go on. Are there any reports from council? No, and that's it. We'll go on to closed session. Thank you. Have a wonderful day, everybody.